Hi, my name is Scott and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about online counselling and how it works, whether it would be the right thing for you, and what the research says about how effective it is. So until recently there's been quite some debate about whether online counselling is effective, whether a counsellor can build a client relationship effectively, and whether the result of counselling is as effective as face-to-face counselling. Now, I would be among the first counsellors to say face-to-face counselling is really effective, it's really good, it helps to be present with an actual person, to build a relationship, to arrive at a place of trust with that person, absolutely. However, what 2020 and beyond has taught us is that we can do a lot more online, a lot better than we thought we could. So clearly since COVID and a lot of home working, there has been a massive spike in online services. So now there's more data out there about how effective this can be. And I'm talking about online services not just in terms of counselling, but in education, in business, in communications generally. The online environment has become something that people are much more comfortable with, technologically and emotionally. It is a place where many of us feel much more comfortable than we would have felt a few years ago. Clearly, the more we practice a skill, the better we become at it. And so the more people have been using the online environment, the more comfortable they become at it, and the more skilled teachers and counsellors have become in getting their message through on this medium. And indeed, there is now research evidence to back up the claim that certain forms of counselling are just as effective online as they are face-to-face. This is the case for CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, and The Lancet also recently published a research article stating exactly the same claim, that online counselling can go as deep and can be as effective as face-to-face counselling. So, what are some of the other advantages that online counselling might offer to you, the client? One advantage, unfortunately, is based around the still existing stigma of seeking help in terms of one's mental health. Seeing a counsellor online can be very private. You do this from the privacy of your own home. You're not going to a centre. You're not going somewhere where there's a waiting room, where there's a possibility of meeting people that you know. There ought to be no shame and no necessity for that level of privacy in accessing counselling, and I would certainly hope that most people today recognise that counselling is a positive thing, and reaching out and asking for counselling can be quite a brave and positive thing to do as well. However, that said, there certainly are people who would prefer to access counselling from the privacy of their own home rather than going to a public centre or to a counsellor's office somewhere in a city or town. Linked to this, of course, is timing. Most counsellors with an office will have office hours, and most people's office hours are also the client's working hours. So maybe it's necessary to take time off work. It's certainly necessary to build some travel into that. So if you're having a 50-minute appointment, that might well take an hour and a half, maybe longer. Online, your 50-minute appointment takes 50 minutes, and you can access that counselling at a time that suits you and your counsellor. That might be 8 o'clock in the morning, that might be 8 o'clock in the evening, that might be during a lunch break. So there's a flexibility there for timing. Location is also a factor. The Expat Counselling Now website was originally conceived to work with expat communities around the world in places where perhaps English-speaking counselling services weren't readily available. Since COVID, the services provided here have been extended to anybody who needs them in an online environment. So location no longer becomes an issue. If you live in a small rural town, if you live in a large urban environment where you might have to travel and commute in traffic to see a counsellor, the online counselling option, of course, cuts through all of that and allows you to use your time more effectively. The other aspect of online counselling which can be very effective is that it can be multifaceted. If you see a face-to-face counsellor, the chances are you're going to their office, you're having your session with them and leaving again. If you engage with an online counsellor, you may well have that same relationship. However, you can also add into that some texting, some shorter video conferencing, and even email interactions with your counsellor. There's a lot to be said for this multifaceted approach, particularly in terms of writing and taking time to reflect on what we really want to say and what we really mean, and sometimes clarifying a point that the counsellor has made or raising an extra question as a client by email can then inform your next session with the counsellor. So that multifaceted level of counselling capability is something that the online environment brings to you as a client. Now, a large part of my work here online as a counsellor is with students and teenagers. Something that's very, very important in counselling is to meet people where they are, and the online environment is clearly where a lot of teenagers and students spend a lot of their time. It's an environment they're very comfortable with, so being able to offer online counselling via video, via text, via messaging services is something that is a natural environment for teenagers and is perhaps somewhere that they might engage with counselling, whereas face-to-face, particularly in a school setting with their school counsellor, they might feel uncomfortable being able to do. In many cases, I have found that initiating counselling with a teenager via text and video services will actually open the door to their then accessing face-to-face counselling in the environment where they are. So hopefully I've helped you understand how the online counselling environment works. You've had a chance to hear me speak and to see me, so you have maybe already an idea of whether I am somebody that you would feel comfortable talking with. If you would like to explore further the possibility of engaging in online counselling, hopefully somewhere down here there's going to be a link that you can click on. The initial consultation is free, and there are various packages available on the website that you can check out now and figure out if this is something that you think works for you. Thank you for listening. If you appreciated this video, you could click on like, that would be nice, and you could even follow. I can't promise, but I intend at the moment that there will be more of these videos addressing different elements of the counselling process. Thanks for your time.